Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Leo full moon reading. The Leo full moon will be on Thursday. I'm kind of like really discombobulated while doing this reading. Um, so I just apologize if I like just what I did, like the whole pause thing, and I'm in a really weird space while I'm doing this reading, and I kind of understand why. Like I know that there are certain things going on in the astrology right now that we're going to take a look at that are, making me a little bit extra emotional. And I have the power within myself to control that, right? Like anything outside of me, yes, has an opportunity to do something to like change my course or change my direction. Even the planets, you guys, I know that everybody thinks that the planets don't influence, I'm not everybody, but I know that there are people that think that the planets don't influence us in these big ways, but they really, I mean, I'm a believer because I feel it like all the time. There's always the shifts that I'm feeling with the planets and stuff. And so I'm really discombobulated while I'm doing this. And you guys may be feeling the same way. Mars and Mercury are closing in on a conjunction, and they will both be square Chiron during this full moon. And so there's a lot of inadequacy that's coming up. There's a lot of self esteem issues that are coming up. There's a lot of not feeling like feeling, whatever it is that's pulling at you right now is making you feel like worse than you need to. That's the only way that I can really put it in like layman's terms for everybody to understand. And it's really knocking us all sort of off kilter. So if you're feeling that, you're not alone. If you're feeling great, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that for the people that are feeling great. I'm so glad for the people that are, feeling like they have energy and feeling like moving forward and like, everything's going. But there's a collective energy that's going on right now. And I've spoken to so many people about this. There's a collective energy going on right now that just feels very stagnant and feels very much like you want to get ahead, but you're not quite sure what to do next or, what that getting ahead's going to look like. Um, and so that, this is going to bring up those feelings of wherever in your life you feel like you're not good enough or you're not doing enough or, something like that. So my advice before we even look at the chart, and I might cry through this reading. Like that's really where I am, you guys. Like I am in such a discombobulated state. And you guys know me. Like I don't. I mean, I'm not just gonna cry at the drop of a at the drop of a hat about anything, anymore. It used to be a lot different than that. I used to cry all the time, but I just, it's just I don't really that much, especially in front of other people. Like I'll do it privately with myself and process my emotions. But this is kind of one of those outward cries kind of full moons that we're talking about. Like, hear me, right? Like, hear my cry kind of full moon that we're talking about because there's, I feel like humanity and the collective, we're all sort of in this place um, where we don't really know what to do anymore. And, we don't really, it's just, I don't, that's how I feel. I feel very like, I don't know who to fight for. I don't know who to root for. I don't know who to, like, I don't know who to trust. I don't know, like all of those things, right? Like there's a very strange feeling inside where I want to detach from all of that. So I don't have to deal with people harming me anymore or people hurting my feelings or people doing things that or saying things that are hurtful, right? Because when we talk about how anything outside of us should not directly affect who we are, that's a little bit unrealistic. I'm just going to go there, okay? Like let's just talk about the spiritual bypass of that, right? um when somebody harms us, and I had this really great conversation with a beautiful Aquarian friend of mine, and she reminded me to bring this message. And I thought this message needs to be said out loud, right? And not just like in a tweet or something. This message needs to be said out loud. When someone harms us and someone comes for us, usually it's because the other person is feeling inadequate and is feeling bad about themselves. And in a lot of ways, we talk about narcissistic abuse, and we talk about narcissist. Oh my God, I'm so sick of that word. We can all have narcissistic tendencies. Are we all narcissists? Can we all be textbook labeled narcissists? No. But we all go through phases in our lives where we can be narcissistic to another person. That doesn't mean that we're narcissists. I've had to look at myself and know that, right? And really do that, right? For myself, knowing like I have actually acted very narcissistically in certain situations. And some of it was self-preservation. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Some of it was self-preservation because I was up against a textbook narcissist at times. And I almost had to use that to counteract the attack, right? So what do we do on the contract? How do we not attack with attack? Because that's what's ruining. And this is not a new thing in this world. War is not a new thing in this world. Pain and suffering and heartache is not a new thing in this world. And when it's so heavy and it's so much, and you're at that point of like, I don't even know who to trust. Like, I have a very small circle of people that I can trust. And even in that circle, there have been people that have dropped off in the last couple of years without me doing anything, having to do anything, because the energies knew that I couldn't trust those people, and I have to have protection around me, but I also want to be open and vulnerable. So how do I do that? How do I have protection around me? And how do I stay open and vulnerable when I feel like everybody's attacking me all the time? I find compassion and I find empathy, and I find it for myself first. And that's what this Leo full moon is going to do. It's going to break down your ego. And there's always that argument. We talk about this a lot, about the ego death. But if we're not giving compassion and empathy to ourselves, then we're not giving compassion and empathy to other people. And there is such a thing as divine rage. There is such a thing as having rage and anger and frustration for a purpose, for an intention. You can't have a purpose without an intention, right? So when you set your divine rage score, no matter what it is, it could be about anything, right? No matter what it is. But if you set that divine rage score to pettiness, you're going to get back some pettiness. But if you set it to compassion and empathy, and you fight for justice instead of fighting against humanity that didn't do any. Do you know who did this? All of this crap that's going on to us, right? Like, people who have been put in power, they pit humans against each other for sport. That's kind of how I feel. That's the way it looks. That's how I feel, you guys. And that's the way it looks to me. People who are in great power pit humans against each other who are not in great power. They pit us against each other. And the only way that we can come back together is if we do it ourselves. And if we give each other more compassion and empathy. So when someone's coming at you, if they're coming at you online, if they're coming at you in real life, if they're coming at you, you look at them and you give them the sword of compassion and empathy instead of the sword of your words. And you're like, Betsy, I don't know if I can do that. These people piss me off. especially right now with his Mars and Mercury square Chiron. I get it. I understand. I understand being pissed off. I understand. Henry sat on the phone this morning for damn near an hour with Chase Bank. And they screwed us in a lot of ways. And it started because he called and asked them for help. He called and sorry. I told you before Christmas, he called and said, how can I skip this payment and not get penalized for it? Because he's never been late on a payment. Nothing's ever been wrong, right? So how can I skip this payment without being penalized? And they set him up, and it was very complicated at first, but they set him up, and they even sent him a letter with these payments that they set him up. And they said, if you get a late charge or late fees, call us and we'll reverse it. So we called this morning, and of course, all of that was a lie. And then they try to tell him that none of this was set up when he has a physical letter that they mailed to him showing him that. They gaslit him through the entire conversation. And I'm just sitting here going, these people are criminals and like fraudulent. And this is just a small, tiny little insignificant thing in the world, right? In the big scheme of things. And just the fact that even the employees of Chase Bank were telling him that he was wrong when he had physical evidence right in front of him. Like that kind of evil in this world. And he's sitting there going, I'm a caretaker to a cancer patient, and I asked you guys for help, and you're making more stress in my life, and you're taking up time in my life, and you're, all these things. And of course, yes, we're not supposed to be paying attention to the reality of the world and blah, blah, blah. We're supposed to be like getting out of the matrix. Let me know when someone figures that one out, right? Anyway, so yeah, of course. So I got that, like all that whole thing. But this is my point. Just that little small story, that example is exploding everywhere, all over this, even in the medical community right now. There is no compassion, and then there is no empathy. I've been failed by the medical community over and over and over again. So all these insecurities, right? Like I'm giving you guys examples of my life and my insecurities, and I appreciate you listening to that. Thank you very much. This is just an example of what these next couple of days leading up to the full moon in Leo is really going to be giving us and showing us. Let me show you the chart. Before I get to the chart, I have speaking of like all of this crap, my calendar is open in February, and I'm really excited to announce that I finally have a specific guidance offering for relationships, specific relationship guidance offering on my website offerings. It's at an introductory rate. It's an hour and a half long, so it's not like a short 30-minute, this is what you need to do to fix your relationships. Nope. We're going to spend time with each other and like talk about your patterns and behaviors. And like, really, I want to help people understand their own relationship signatures. And so that's what this relationship guidance is all about. Because it took me a long time, and I didn't really have anybody to bounce off of, right? So I would like to offer that to you. So that's on my calendar. February is wide open, and that's a new offering. And I also have just a few spots left for the 2024 astrology if you want to get your personal 2024 astrology, see what all these big transits that are happening this year are, how they're going to affect you. And we'll even look at 2025 with the outer transits and how they're going to affect you as well. So all of that is in my description box. Check out that website. So let's look at the calendar or the chart. Calendar, wow. Let's look at the chart. Okay, here we are. So the full moon will be at 10:53 a.m. Mountain Time on Thursday, January 25th. So this will be noon. It's like it'll be 12:53 p.m. Eastern time and 9:53 a.m. Pacific time. You might be able to get a shot of the daytime full moon actually with this, but you can see we're still very like this intensity of the sun being so close to Pluto right here is definitely felt, but this is what I'm talking about, you guys. Mercury and Mars are conjunct. Mercury is going to be conjunct Mars exact, I think it's on the 20, I don't remember, hold on. I have like all my stuff right here. 27th. So Saturday, Mercury and Mars will be conjunct exact, but we can already feel it. And it really feels like yesterday, I stayed in bed all day long yesterday and researched all of the rising sign astrology for February for each of the rising signs, which you can get on Patreon, by the way, if you're interested in that. We go pretty in depth, like we get pretty in depth with the astrology for the rising signs and the sun signs. But I stayed in bed all day long, and I literally started at probably about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I looked down and it felt like maybe just an hour or two had gone by, and it was 3 p.m. And I was like, what the hell? Everything is fast, everything is direct. Uranus even goes direct this week as well. So we have Mercury and Mars conjunct, and then we have square Chiron. There's really this T-square that's forming that will be even more formed as we move closer to the weekend. So even like getting closer to Friday and Saturday, this T-square to the nodes, Mercury and Mars will be square the nodes this weekend. And there's actually two T-squares. If you see this other T-square, the sun square Jupiter and the moon square Jupiter. So we have two T-squares forming, and that'll be exact when the moon and the sun move over to the 6 degrees, this T-square. So this, and that Jupiter is expansion, right? There's this expansion that's happening through this full moon. So we're making a lot of space. And it's not a pretty thing. It's, it's going to be a lot of ugly crying. I've already done a lot of that. We're under the Cancer moon right now. And it's just helping to activate that emotional, stuff for us to really allow the energy to move through. Mercury and Mars square Chiron is where our inadequacies are showing. And because we have this square the nodes, it's a very, this is really helping us to learn in practicing patience with other people within the relationships that we have with each other, and practicing all of that patience and recognizing when we're triggered and recognizing how to handle ourselves within that trigger. And it's not easy, you guys. It's really not easy, especially when your ego is in charge, when your angry ego is in charge. I'm pumping up my foot boot just to get it a little bit more secure. But that, it's like when our ego is in charge, I know that there are moments I've had tantrums in my life where I forget. It's almost like an out of body experience, right? And a lot of that is, I've been, I'm doing this, I'm reading about fundamental consciousness and the realization process. And it's, when you're embodying your body, you can tell when there are parts of your body that have been traumatized, and that part of your soul has left your body. Because when you throw yourself into a tantrum during that moment, when that part of you is triggered, you come out 3D, right? You come out of that part of your soul comes out of your body while you're throwing a tantrum, and you can witness it when you're aware enough. And I'm sure you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There's probably a lot of us that do that, right? And I have in the last couple of years been working very hard to piece together back my soul, right? Bring that wholeness back into my soul, because I wanted to survive, right? There were parts of my soul that didn't want to live, or not parts of my soul, there were parts of my body that didn't want to live, but my soul wants me to keep going, right? To keep moving and keep going. And so, and one of those ways that I had to do that was to witness myself in those tantrums, and to witness myself in my own in my own feelings of inadequacy, and witness myself in all of that. And I also have to be willing to let other people do the same thing. The Sabian symbol for this moon is Leo 6 degrees, because we're at 5 degrees and 14 seconds. We're going to go to the next degree. So it's Leo 6 degrees, and the symbol is an old-fashioned woman and an up-to-date girl. And when we look at that theme, it's something old, something new, and something borrowed. So the greatest advantage of this is paying attention to the contrast of things, and paying attention to, like, we all live in our own little universes, in our own little realities, and then we interact with people on the outside of us, right? We interact with the collective at large. And when we're interacting with the collective at large, we have a choice. They can take us out of character, or they can show us our strength. And Chiron is what does that. When we're talking about Chiron, and Chiron's going to be a big deal when we come into February, because there will be, Chiron will be conjunct the North Node the entire month of February. And there is going to be massive healing, not only within ourselves, but around the world. There's going to be a lot of healing going on. That doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be happy. You know, Chiron shows us and makes us witness to our wounds so that we can gain strength through them. Whatever it is that we're holding on to, right? Whatever it is that we're holding on to. And allowing ourselves to see that hurt people, and healed people heal people. And I know that that's really cliche, and I know that that sounds kind of hippie woo-woo and a little bit silly, but it's very true when we look at it deeply. It's very true. Our best advantage for this is to be sensitive to the needs of others, to see the contrast from ourselves and other people's lives, to look at the differences of other people, and to look at our own inadequacies and allow ourselves to see humanity in a different kind of way. It's hard to have compassion and empathy when you've been wronged so many times. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. So it's not an easy thing. And I know a lot of people will be very angry with me for saying that there needs to be more compassion and empathy. So many people want more death and more war, and they want an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and a whatever for a whatever. And I think there's too much of that. I think that going back to that golden rule, treat others the way that you would want to be treated, I think we need more of that. I think we need more compassion and empathy, and it has to start with you. And this full moon is really having you start with you, and having you recognize maybe where you have been harmed by other people and why that rage is still there. Let it clear out. Let it clear out, right? Even if other people haven't done it on purpose, we still go after them. There's a lot of compassion and empathy that can still happen. That's my hope. So find ways to cooperate with people, find ways to work through problems when you're in conflict with someone. The reason why we argue and fight with other people is because of our inadequacies, because of those things we feel about ourselves. If we did not feel inadequate, someone's words would not harm us because we would know they're not true. And then we could still give compassion and empathy to them. So until we heal our own fears and whatever power our fears have over us, we're going to keep on fighting ourselves and fighting other people all the time. All the time. All right, let's throw some cards. I know I just got real serious and kind of like tough about this. I don't mean to be a bully. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm kind of sick of it. Like, I'm not going to lie, you guys. I'm really, really sick of the way people treat each other. I'm so sick of the way people treat each other. Like, it's just not, there's no point of treating each other so poorly. So, and there could be a lot of, I mean, like, whatever. People can give reasons and excuses why they are treating each other poorly, and I don't buy it. I think it's all bullshit. I think the reason and the excuses for people treating each other poorly is because they have not learned willpower. They've not learned how to interact with others without harming them, like it's just not okay. And it's a chain reaction, it's not just like one big thing happened and everybody started being assholes to each other. It was a chain reaction, and the pandemic only heightened the assholeness, right? The pandemic only heightened it. And it's just, I'm just really waiting for Pluto and Aquarius to do some changing of humanity. Like, I just want there to be some more compassion and empathy in the world. That's my prayer every day. That's my prayer. All right, Leo full moon. Woo. Oh, wow. Okay. Time, you guys. There's something that there is something that, now we're just going to line this up together. There's something that that it is time for you to take action on. It has been stewing for a while because the Eight of Swords is here. You're in a self-imposed imprisonment of the mind. You are creating scenarios at this point in your head for future things that haven't even happened yet. And what you really need to be focusing on is the present moment, right here, right now. What's going on here? What's going on right now? Seven of Wands, Nine of Pentacles, Judgment, and the Eight of Swords. This feels like, for some of you, this feels like being your own advocate. And with Judgment here, it's like it's an activation, which is funny because I said that to a dear Leo rising friend of mine this morning. If you're a Leo rising and you're around 7 to 3 degrees Leo rising, this moon is really going to be activating some things for you. For the next 6 months in particular, this moon is going to be activating some things for you. And in a lot of ways, there's this protection. I feel like there's a protection that you're sort of putting around yourself through it as well, which is great. But don't forget to stay open and receptive as well, right? Because this feels like there's a protection that you're almost like putting up a wall, cement, bricks, whatever is going to keep you protected, right? And not let anybody in. So we have the Seven of Wands, Nine of Pentacles, Judgment, Eight of Swords. Okay. Yeah. The star. Wow. Look at that. Aquarius rules. Welcome to Aquarius season, you guys. Welcome, welcome. The star is our purpose. It is our wish. It is the direction our soul wants to go. I often think about the North Node in our natal charts when the star comes up. It's the lessons that we're learning. Page of Pentacles on the Seven of Wands. Page of Pentacles on the Seven of Wands. This is a new journey. And keeping out anything that is not worthy of you is absolutely necessary for you right now. Keeping out anything, if you have any Leo placements anywhere between 4 degrees, maybe 3 degrees and 7 degrees, yeah, 3 degrees and 7 degrees, this is going to be an activation for you. Any placement, not just rising. Sorry for saying that. But that Page of Pentacles, you know, that's the beginning of a journey. That's like not, you know, and I feel like, so for those of you that are starting something new, that are beginning a new journey, this feels like you're sort of protecting yourself from the things that could possibly be coming up on the journey. For others of you, this is about protecting yourself from people that do not have the best interests, that are not good enough, breadcrumbing you, right? And that doesn't have to be in romantic relationships. If you have friends that are breadcrumbing you, the medical community is breadcrumbing me right now, you guys, and I'm not having it anymore. Like, I'm done. Just saying. Like, that's what I mean. If anything is breadcrumbing you, it's time to take a good hard look at it and see if it actually needs to be in your life anymore. I feel like, and it's very interesting, we have the King of Cups here on the Nine of Pentacles. I feel like this is an emotional reset. And for a lot of us, this emotional reset is about gaining independence. That Nine of Pentacles is being independent and abundant all on our own. And for some of us, we no longer want to be alone anymore. And we're finding that emotional capacity within us to really want to be opened up. But you cannot just breadcrumb your way through, right? Like, people cannot just come up and be like, I'm just going to give you a little bit, but you have to give me a whole bunch. No, that's not the way that works, right? So this feels very much like an emotional reset. With the Five of Cups on Judgment, there's definite grief and space that's being made with this full moon. Five of Cups on Judgment. Now, the Five of Cups talks about grief, but it also talks about what we still have as we move through the grief, what's still standing, what's still with us as we move through the grief. You're not alone, and you're not completely empty. But now is the time for the space to be made. And sometimes the only way to make that space is to grieve it. And some people are like, Betsy, I've been grieving forever. When does the grief stop? It doesn't. You just make more space around the grief. The grief never goes away. That sadness, that thing, that trauma, that thing that happened to you that was so painful that it broke you, it doesn't go away. It transforms. It transmutes into something else. It doesn't go away. It becomes something else. And that's what you're doing now. You're moving the grief through you to make it something else. Three of Wands, Eight of Swords, and you're doing it to make space. That Three of Wands is the space maker. We're ready for what's coming. We no longer want to be in the chains of our own minds, in the swords of our own mind. We don't want to think about the anger. We don't want to think about the rage. We don't want to think about the pain of it all. We want to think about what comes next. And that's okay. It's always okay to be excited about what you can do next. You know, it's okay I think a lot of people feel like when there's a major loss in their life, they sort of feel guilty to move on. It's like, why am I the one that gets to move on? Why doesn't the other person get to move on? Or why, I know a lot of people that have lost people in the last several years. Since 2020, I've known a lot of people that have lost people. I've been a grief counselor for many years, and it's okay to look for a brighter day. And the memories and all of those things, all of those, everything that's coming up right now with that Mercury and Mars square Chiron is allowing you to make space for more in the future. So let yourself cry. However you process things. For me, the easiest way to process emotions is to let myself cry. And I'm doing that a lot with this Cancer full moon, obviously. Like, I don't just break down in tears during videos all the time. And it's really funny because there are so many things that have gone right in my life in the last couple of years. And I really appreciate that because I can clearly see the things that are important that I need to pay attention to now. And what I mean by that is, when you're in survival mode your entire life and you never have an opportunity to be able to think about anything except for being in survival mode, there's not a lot of breaking of, like the light at the end of the tunnel. There's not a lot of light at the end of the tunnel when you're in survival mode. And the greatest thing that I've been able to do for myself being in survival mode is remembering what I deserve, right? And where I'm going from here, and that I don't have to stay here. So I was long-winded today, you guys. I love you so much. If you're still hanging out with me at this point of the video, thanks. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful Leo full moon. And it's okay. It's okay to just fall apart right now. It really is. It's just, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean that everything is going to fall apart. Just let yourself process all of the things. Even if it's super duper uncomfortable, there will be clearer energy on the other side of that. I promise. Thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. Bye.